Hello, mystery knitters. Welcome to Clue 1 of Slipstravaganza. It is finally here, okay? I'm gonna hold your hand virtually through the entire process with these technical videos, but before we start, I have a rule for the entire knit along, okay? Number one rule, don't freak out, okay? Don't freak out. If you have an extra stitch or you're missing a stitch somewhere, just sneak it in, okay? It's okay. Don't rip out unless it's a disaster, okay? But it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fine. Follow these videos, because this week we're gonna start with the main color with contrast colors 1 and 3, okay? Which colors are you gonna choose? Contrast colors 1 and 3, I'm gonna use 1 and 3. They're gonna stripe together and be framed by the main color. So pick your two colors that you like playing together for contrast colors 1 and 3. This could also be the lightest and the darkest contrast colors that you have. That's gonna leave contrast color 2 for another day. Not today, but contrast color 2 is gonna be the star contrast color coming later, okay? It makes a late arrival to the party. It's a very dramatic contrast color. So save 2 for another day. Main color, contrast colors 1 and 3, you're gonna get some crispy contrast with solid contrast colors. If you have more speckly contrast colors or tones that are more blendy, you'll get more of a shadow effect with your section 1. Main color, contrast color 1 and 3. That'll leave this peach as contrast color 2 as the star. So if your colors blend a little bit, don't worry, because there's textural contrast as well throughout the entire shawl. So don't worry if your colors blend. You'll have a more subtle blended shadow effect. But if you have more crispy colors, it'll be very graphic. But follow the instructions row by row along with these technical videos, and let's get started with section 1. Welcome to section 1 of Slipstravaganza. This shawl requires 2 balls of the main color and 1 ball each of your contrast colors. Section 1, we're going to use the main color and contrast colors 1 and 3. Choose the 2 contrast colors that you like best together. These are gonna play and stripe together. Or you could choose the 2 contrast colors that contrast the most for you. So I have contrast 1, silver, contrast 3 will be my yellow, contrast 2 we'll save for another day. To begin section 1, cast on 3 stitches with main color using any cast on method you like. I just used the long tail cast on. Now slip those 3 stitches onto the left needle and knit those 3 stitches. And slip those 3 stitches onto the left needle. We're going to repeat this 147 more times. Knit 3 and slip onto the left needle, always looking at the same side of the work to create an I-cord tail. 147 more times, that's a big number. I'm just gonna make a long I-cord tail and count my rows later. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of my I-cord. So I have a few more to go until I have 147 more. I finished repeating my I-cord rows 147 more times. So I have an I-cord tail that's not too tight, not too loose. And as you knit that I-cord, it might help you if you place stitch markers every 20 or every 50 rows to help you keep track. And if you don't have exactly 147 repeats, or if you're not sure, just keep going. It's okay. If you're 1 or 2 rows off, it's totally fine. I'm going to continue by picking up and knitting 147 stitches across the I-cord tail. When I pick up stitches, I go into both legs of a stitch. And keep doing this into every I-cord row until you reach the end of your I-cord tail. I just finished my pickup of 147 stitches along the I-cord edge. As you reach the end of the I-cord, if you have too many stitches or if you're missing some, you can feel free to skip a row as you pick up to have enough. So don't worry if you don't have the exact number of stitches. You could always sneak in an increase or a decrease on the following row. Once you've finished that pickup, you should have 150 total stitches. Now on the wrong side, next row, wrong side, pick up and knit 3 stitches along the I-cord cast on. I start with the first stitch close to my needle tip, more towards the back of that I-cord cast on. Number 1, and get a second strand from the I-cord cast on. It doesn't really matter exactly which strand you get. Any 3 strands of yarn along this I-cord cast on edge. And number 3. So I started kind of at the back and then worked my way toward the front to get 3 I-cord stitches. If anything looks funky, we have this tail of yarn we could use as surgery to stitch anything closed. And continue to knit 147 stitches on the wrong side of your row. I'm reaching the end of the wrong side row, knit to the last 3 stitches, and then slip those 3 stitches with yarn in front. So make sure your yarn is in the front before you slip those last 3 stitches purlwise. Turn to work row 1, right side, knit 3, and purl to the last 3 stitches. You should have a total stitch count of 153 stitches. If you notice you have too many stitches or too few, you could sneak in a decrease. If you have too many stitches, that's totally fine. Or if you don't have enough stitches, you could sneak in an increase as well. That's totally fine. Just get on track. Get to 153 stitches on your needle. And if it also helps you to keep track, you can place a stitch marker on the right side to mark which is the right side and which is the wrong side. It's not necessary, but it might help you. Purl to the last 3 stitches of row 1. Work row 1 and 2 with main color. I'm at the end of row 3, knit 13, slip 3 with yarn in back to the last 3 stitches, and then bring the yarn forward to slip 3 with yarn in front at the end of your row. Row 4, wrong side, knit 3, slip 3 with yarn in front, those same 3 main color stitches, and purl 13. Purl 13, slip 3 with yarn in front to the last 3 stitches. So you'll be slipping these same 3 main color stitches with yarn in front on the wrong side. Row 5, with contrast color 3, we're going to knit 3 and do the same weave-in, steven crisscross. Slip 3 with yarn in back and knit 13. We can do the same weave-in, steven, weave in your ends as you go. And rows 5 and 6 are just like rows 3 and 4, but with contrast color 3, my bright yellow. I just finished row 6 with contrast color 3, and now that all 3 strands of yarn are attached, it can be a little bit to juggle. I like to keep my contrast colors to one side and my main color to the other side. We're going to use the main color again later, so to help, every time you're at the beginning of the right side, I like to take my main color from below and cross it on top on top of the contrast colors. So at the beginning of the right side, take the main color, cross it on top of the contrast colors, and then bring the next contrast color up to work the right side. Repeat rows 3 through 6 once more, and then rows 3 and 4 once more. So keep alternating the contrast colors until you have 5 total contrast stripes. I'm ready for row 16, wrong side. Knit 2, slip, slip, knit to decrease 1 stitch. Slip the 3 stitches onto the left needle and repeat 6 more times. This is going to bind off 7 stitches. And once you've repeated these instructions 6 more times, you'll work a final slip, slip, knit, and then continue to knit across the row to the last 3 stitches. Slip, slip, knit, and continue to knit across the row. Here is the beginning of row 16, wrong side. I just worked the beginning of the row, and it's going to bind off 8 stitches in I-cord. And continue to knit across row 16, wrong side, to the last 3 stitches. I'm ready for row 17, right side. I just bound off on the last wrong side row, the stitches over there. With the main color, we're going to bind off some more stitches. Knit 2, slip, slip, knit, and slip the 3 stitches onto the left needle. Repeat that 6 more times. 1, and 2. I'm working the 6th repeat with main color. Slip, slip, knit, slip 3 onto the left needle, drop the main color, and continue with contrast color 3. Knit 2, and slip, slip, knit, and continue the row. Let's do the weave-in Steve-in because we have a new tail of yarn. Slip 3 with yarn in back, knit 13. As you knit those 13 stitches, weave in your ends as you go, doing this crisscross method. Continue following the rows for section 1, and it's important that as you follow the instructions, whatever color you end with on a honeycomb, contrast color 1, you start with the next color for the new honeycomb. So always keep alternating the contrast color stripes. This honeycomb is going to start and end with contrast color 3 for 5 stripes as well. Section 1 is going to result in 9 total honeycomb sections. I am binding off the final right side row of section 1. So as you bind off an I-cord, you're going to do that until 6 total stitches remain. Break the yarn, leaving a tail, and place that onto a tapestry needle. We're going to graft the 6 remaining stitches together using Kitchener stitch. So put the first 3 stitches that you've been binding off on your right needle, and I'm going to switch the needle position for those last 3 stitches so that the purl bumps are kissing each other, and I'm looking at the smooth sides on the outside, and we're gonna graft these together. So go through the front stitch purlwise, and go through the back stitch knitwise. Now go through the front stitch knitwise off and go through the next one purlwise, leave it on. Into the back, purlwise off, knitwise into the next stitch and leave it on the needle. Knitwise off, purlwise on. And the back needle, purlwise off, knitwise, leave it on. And to finish it off, let's go through as if to knit on the front and as if to purl on the back. And you can go ahead and whip stitch and weave this tail into the fabric to finish section 1. Don't worry if your edges curl a little bit. When you finish section 1, we're gonna smooth that out later. Wow, that was a clue. There were honeycombs and stripes and I-cord edges going all over the place. I still have no idea where this shawl is going. It could go in any direction, so I don't know. Just get as much knitting done as you can this weekend because this is just the beginning. I have some surprises in store. So you're gonna wanna get as much knitting done this weekend as you can because there's more sections coming soon. Contrast color 2 may be making a late appearance, a late arrival to the party. So share your progress on the Ravelry MCAL 2020 group, which is linked down below. And you can also share your photos on Instagram with hashtag SlipStravaganzaMCAL and hashtag WestknitsMCAL 2020. If you post your photos on Instagram, try to post just a photo of your unknit yarn or my square thumbnail photo as your first photo on Instagram. Try not to spoil it too much for everybody, but I just can't wait to see your color palettes come to life, and there's some really cool sections coming ahead, so we're just getting started. So I'll see y'all soon.